Homeless boy knelt down to fix a stranger's broken wheelchair, then discovered the old man was worth $4. $2 billion, a kind act on a cold night that changed everything. The streets of Chicago were quiet that Thursday night. The kind of quiet that only comes after midnight, when the city finally exhales. Marcus Webb, a 22-year-old from the South Side, was walking home after a double shift at the auto repair shop where he worked for $14 an hour. His hands were still stained with grease, his back ached, his sneakers had a hole in the left sole that let the cold concrete bite through his sock with every step. He had exactly $23 in his wallet. Rent was due in 4 days, but Marcus wasn't thinking about any of that right now. Because 50 feet ahead of him, underneath a flickering streetlight, an old man in a wheelchair was completely stuck. The man looked to be in his late 70s, maybe 80. He was dressed sharply. A dark navy suit, a silk tie, polished black shoes, which seemed completely out of place at 1:15 in the morning on a Chicago side street. His white hair was neatly combed, his hands gripped the wheelchair's push rims, but the chair wasn't moving. One of the rear wheels had locked up completely, and the front left caster wheel was bent at a bad angle, clearly caught in a sidewalk crack. The old man wasn't panicking. He wasn't calling out for help. He just sat there with a quiet dignity, calmly trying to work the wheels free. Nobody else stopped. 3 people walked past him on the other side of the street. A car slowed down, then kept going. A couple crossed to the opposite sidewalk without making eye contact. Marcus stopped. "Sir, hey sir, you okay?" he called out, already walking toward him. The old man looked up. His eyes were sharp and blue, the kind of eyes that had seen 100 years of human nature. He smiled, not a helpless smile, but a calm, almost curious one. "The wheel seems to have caught itself," he said. His voice was steady, educated, unhurried. "I've been attempting to free it for about 10 minutes. "Let me help you, sir," Marcus said. He crouched down without hesitation, kneeling directly on the cold concrete to get a better look. Marcus had been working around mechanical things his whole life. Growing up, he used to fix his grandmother's old fan, his neighbor's bicycle, anything broken that people left on the curb. The auto repair shop had only sharpened those instincts. He immediately saw the problem. The front caster wheel had a bent axle pin, probably hit a curb wrong, and it had lodged itself sideways in a sidewalk crack. The rear wheel's brake mechanism had simultaneously engaged from the jolt, locking it in place. "Take me a minute," Marcus said. "I got it." He pulled a small multi-tool from his work jacket pocket, the one thing he always carried, and got to work. He carefully bent the axle pin back into alignment, cleared the debris jamming the caster, then reached under the chair and manually released the stuck brake lever. 5 minutes. That's all it took. He stood up, gripped the handles, and the wheelchair rolled smoothly forward. "There you go, sir. Good as it's going to get tonight. You should get that caster properly replaced, though. I can write down what part you need if you want." The old man turned around in the chair to look at Marcus fully. He studied him for a long moment. The grease-stained hands, the worn jacket, the hole in his shoe. "What's your name, son?" he asked. "Marcus Webb." "And what do you do, Marcus?" "Auto mechanic. Over on Halsted." The old man nodded slowly. "How long have you been doing that?" 4 years, since I was 18. "Do you enjoy it?" Marcus paused. Nobody had asked him that in a long time. He said honestly, "I like fixing things. I like knowing how stuff works." The old man extended his hand. "I'm Edward Hargrove." Marcus shook it. The old man's grip was firm. "Can I call someone for you, Mr. Hargrove? It's pretty late to be out alone. My driver is 3 blocks away. I prefer to roll myself when the weather is decent." He paused. "Would you walk with me those 3 blocks, Marcus? I'd enjoy the company." Marcus looked at his watch. He had nowhere urgent to be. "Sure," he said. They walked, Marcus walking slowly alongside the wheelchair, and Edward Hargrove asked questions. Not small talk, real questions. About Marcus's life, his work, his goals. About why he hadn't gone to college. About what he would do if money wasn't a limitation. Marcus answered honestly. He talked about how he'd wanted to open his own auto shop since he was 16. How he had a business plan written in a notebook at home. How he'd been saving for 3 years, but the numbers never quite got there. how his mom had gotten sick last year and wiped out everything he'd put aside. Edward listened without interrupting. When Marcus finished talking, the old man was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Do you know who I am, Marcus? You said your name is Edward Hargrove. Does that mean anything to you?" Marcus shook his head. "Should it?" For the first time, Edward Hargrove laughed, a real, genuine laugh. "No," he said. "I suppose it shouldn't have to." They reached the black SUV idling at the corner. A driver in a dark suit stepped out immediately. Edward took a business card from his inside jacket pocket and held it out to Marcus. "Come to this address on Monday morning, 9 o'clock. Ask for Patricia at the front desk and tell her Edward sent you." Marcus took the card. In the streetlight he read, "Hargrove Capital Group, 875 North Michigan Avenue, 41st floor." He looked up. "What is this?" "A conversation," Edward said. "That's all. Come on Monday." Marcus almost didn't go. He stood outside 875 North Michigan Avenue on Monday morning in his only button-down shirt, feeling completely out of place. He Googled the name in the elevator. Edward Hargrove. Net worth $4, $2 billion. Founder, Hargrove Capital Group. Named one of Forbes's most influential investors of the decade. Marcus stared at his phone screen. His hands were shaking when the elevator doors opened on the 41st floor. Patricia was expecting him. She walked him into a corner office with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Lake Michigan. Edward Hargrove was seated behind a large oak desk. He stood when Marcus walked in, something Marcus later learned he never did for anyone. The conversation lasted 2 hours. Edward had Marcus walk him through his business plan, the notebook one, the one he'd written himself over 3 years. Marcus pulled it up on his phone, stumbling over his words at first, then gaining confidence as he talked about what he knew: diagnostics, customer flow, supplier relationships, location strategy. When Marcus finished, Edward leaned back in his chair. "I've funded 43 businesses in my career," he said. "Some of them had Harvard MBAs and 30-page pitch decks. None of them knew their business the way you know yours." Marcus didn't know what to say. "I'm going to offer you a startup investment, enough to lease a space, purchase equipment, and cover 6 months of operating costs. In exchange, I take a 15% equity stake, which I will return to you at cost once you hit $500,000 in annual revenue." The room was silent. "Why?" Marcus finally asked. "You don't know me?" Edward looked at him steadily. "I know everything I need to know. You stopped on a cold night when nobody else did. You kneeled on the concrete without being asked. You fixed the problem with what you had in your pocket. And then you walked 3 blocks with an old man just to be kind." He paused. "Character like that is rarer than capital, Marcus. It's the only thing I've never been able to invest in, until now." Auto Solutions opened its doors 8 months later on the west side of Chicago. In its first year, it generated $340,000 in revenue. In its second year, Marcus hired 6 employees, all from his own neighborhood. He paid Edward Hargrove back in full in year 3. At the small celebration dinner that followed, Marcus raised a glass. "To a broken wheelchair," he said. Edward Hargrove smiled. "To a young man who stopped." Sometimes the moment that changes your entire life looks like an inconvenience at midnight. Stop anyway.